Oh, and this is my summary of chapter 5. Chapter 5 talks about specialized knowledge. According to the book, according to Napoleon Hill, there are two forms of knowledge. There is general knowledge and there is specialized knowledge. But Napoleon made us to understand that nobody gets very successful, rich, or wealthy with general knowledge. That is why you can see a professor that is still struggling financially. He has knowledge about this, knowledge about that, knowledge about this, but he doesn't have a specialized knowledge, because it is only what you are a specialist in that you can. It's only when you have special knowledge that you can apply that knowledge, and then if you apply the knowledge, that's what gives you results. This is also the reason why you might look around and see that a lot of people that we would say are uneducated, like they did not go through the formal or basic educational system, but you still see that they are successful. Why is that? You might, like myself, I know when we were during my uni days, I think it was 200 level. There's this guy, Samuel is his name. So we call him Sam Sax, because he used to be a very good saxophone player. But the irony of it is that Sam was not very good with academics. In fact, it was terrible. I remember we did like 14 courses my first semester in year 1. That was way back 2010. Sam failed like 9 or 10 courses on that first year. So it was almost hopeless. The signs were on the wall. The handwriting was on the wall that this guy is not very good with academics. Maybe he's not that intellectually inclined. Some people are just like that. What happened is Sam dropped out of school in 200 level. I don't know why he did that. Maybe he felt he couldn't keep up, or because failing that amount of course is already almost guaranteed that you have extra years, right? So of course we are his peers, and now we did say we did do well that time. So we felt like he in fact, I will not lie, many of us thought he was a failure because he was not sound academically. So we did not hear of him again. We were just focused on our studies and all that. Most of us graduated with different grades. But to my greatest surprise, I think upon graduation, and now the next place I saw Sam was online. I saw him on Facebook playing sax in a very big auditorium, and I think it was a church. It was a church, yeah. So I was like, wow. Like, how did he get... at this point in my life, I just finished school. Like, I never even noticed this my life do. But Sam was already doing very well. Had bodyguards, had a special personal assistant. His car then was like latest model of cars, traveling around the world and all that. Financially, he was very successful. He became very rich, even before people like us that were, in quotes, academically sound could even figure our lives out. Somebody might be wondering, why is it like that? Because before now, we were taught that you should just go to school, get a good grade, get a good job, and then you live a good life, right? But what we were not taught is that what school teaches us is general knowledge. And most times, they don't even teach you how to apply that knowledge. That's why most, in Nigerian setting that I'm aware of, most tertiary institutions do a lot of theories. That's why you see a graduate of mechanical engineering that does not even know how to service a generator. Even I pass my neighbor, he doesn't know how to service it. But he's supposed to be a mechanical engineer that should be able to, tackle any mechanical issue. But the problem is that there is no specialization. So Sam went ahead to leave a school. He owned and mastered his craft, right? He mastered it so much that he became the best in it, that whenever he needed a sax player, you had to just call Sam. You had to just look for him, right? So because of that his skill, he became rich, which is like the goal of why we are even reading this book in the first place. I have a lot of stories like that, of people that specialized in one thing and then they became rich from it. This same reason is the reason why Many of my peers, when we were still studying, they dropped out of secondary school. Some stopped after secondary school, after WAEC. Some did not even write WAEC, and then they went to learn a trade, right? By the time we would finish university, serve, and come out, they would be the people that will now own the businesses and the shops around us, right? They are already started to do business. They are already started to make good money. In fact, they are now rich. But you just finished school. The difference between, let's say, myself and that kind of person is, I was busy gathering general knowledge while he was busy specializing in trade and commerce. That is a skill. That is an area of specialization. He served and learned all he needed to know to be good and to be successful as a trader. Learned everything he needed to know about importation and all that. And you that is a student or a graduate might not even know the basic, as in the least thing to be known about buying and selling. You don't even know. You don't even know anything about accounting, balance sheet. You don't know nothing about business and trade. But in the general sense of it, if they compare the both of you, they will say you are more knowledgeable. Yes, you are. But you have a general knowledge. You don't have a specialized knowledge. He will be doing better than you. He'll be richer than you. In fact, the irony of the whole thing is that somebody with a specialized knowledge is, even in my own, from my own point of view, my honest opinion is that somebody with specialized knowledge is more knowledgeable than somebody with general knowledge. My reason is very simple. If you have specialized knowledge and you become successful at that thing you do, that particular thing you are known for, right? You can employ anybody with all their knowledge, with all their education, to work for you, right? So, if Nigerian politicians who have mastered the craft of politicking can use our vice chancellors as errand boys, as pawns in the game of chess whenever it's election time, like they are the ones that they use to do a lot of running around, a lot of bypassing. In fact, they are the ones that call electoral results from most districts, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that should tell you everything you need to know. So if a politician, a dirty politician, can use your vice chancellor to do his dirty bidding to get what he wants, what does that tell you that he's an undergraduate? What does that tell you that he's a fresher? What does that tell you that he's a master's holder? What does that tell you that he's a PhD holder? If Dangote can be recruiting PhD holders to drive his truck for him, what does that tell you about general knowledge and specialized knowledge? If Pella, who is a dropout from secondary school, can be asking for master degree holders to come and apply to be cameraman for him so that he'll be paying them 500,000 naira a month, and we saw a lot of people turn up for the interview, that should tell you everything you need to know. To be successful, one has to be you should be a specialist in one thing. And I believe that is why educational system was, as in, it is the way it is. After basic or elementary, you now have to go to college. After college, you go to university. After university, you can do masters. After masters, you can do PhD. All those things is like level of specialization. Because I remember those days in secondary school, there are things we'll be learning maybe in general integrated science. They'll be like, we can't teach you beyond this point. When you go to university, if you major in sciences, you'll probably be taught more. That is like specialization in practical terms. So when you get to university now, if let's say you study biochemistry, right? There are a lot of questions that you were not able to find answers to in secondary school. Your teachers probably did never know the answers. Your lecturers will be in a better position because they have dug deeper, they have learned better, right? To teach you those things. And even while you are learning, there will still be other areas of specialization that needs you to go further to learn. That is why there is masters. When you now go for your masters, you will now focus on one area of that field and you keep learning all there is to learn about it. while doing that, you would also encounter that there is still this area of this thing that I'm learning that masters cannot teach me. That is when you will now take it a step further to become a philosopher in that area. That is why there is PhD or doctorate degree in that area. So, and according to what we know, learning never stops, right? So it means that even the educational sector accepts that there is need for specialization. But although where I fought the educational system is in the aspect of, like me, I spent 5 years in the university. We were borrowing courses that were not directly related to what I studied for 3 years. In fact, when we started to learn what was core to what I studied was 400 level. And I know it's like that for a lot of undergraduates, right? So where I fought the educational system is they like to just fill up the curriculum with unnecessary information that the student does not need. And then they don't teach you how to apply what you have learned. That is why you ask an average Nigerian undergraduate today, what do you think you would do with this your degree after school? You will hear them beating about the bush saying they can do this, I can work here, I can work here, I can work here, I can work here, because that's what the lecturer told them. But when they will now come out of school, they will now be overwhelmed to realize that the real world doesn't work like that. So, to summarize, because I think the audio is already getting very long, one of the most important skills you must get to acquire riches is specialized knowledge. You have to be a specialist in what you do. You have to know it to the extent that nobody knows it as much as you do. Nobody knows how to do that thing as much as you do. By doing that, you add a lot of value to yourself. And when you have that value is something you cannot hide. People must see it. People must associate with that value. And that value would attract riches naturally. There'll be a point where you'll be especially that you'll be the one to put prices on yourself. You'll be the one to say, okay, if I must come to your event and maybe anchor your event, or I must come to your event and chef your event, this is how much you pay me, and it will be non-negotiable because you are special. That is the difference. Thank you, sir.